I just built this complete full stack Flutter mobile application using this new AI tool called Dreamflow. So in this video, we'll build a fully functional Flutter mobile app connected to Supabase as the database, ready to be published to the App Store right now. And we'll also discuss why this tool is better than most other AI tools for building a native mobile application. Okay, to start using Dreamflow, you can go to dreamflow.app. You can find the link in the description below. You can simply click on Get Started. You can use the Google or GitHub login. I'll be logging in with my Google account, and you can see that it will create an initial dashboard for me. This is my entry page. Welcome Srinath Warrior. I can either click on a new project, start from template, or I can enter my prompt itself. I also have the option of selecting it from a template, so you can see different types of templates like an AI chatbot or a dashboard, or I have a Shatsi and UI playground already ready to start working with. So today we're going to build a mindfulness meditation application. So I will enter my prompt here, build a sleek meditation app like Headspace with a light theme, a bottom navigation bar for home, search, library and practice. I'll click on proceed and it will start generating my code for me completely. And this will be pure native Flutter application. And we can then see how it actually starts building the application. So as you can see, there are three sections on top. You have prompt, generate and jump in. Currently it is in the generate phase and the generation has started already. Now you can see that the name of the application is set as Clarity Flow, which says that it's going to find your inner calm with a beautiful meditation app featuring guided sessions and etc. But it has also made a list of tasks for the AI to generate on its own. So it will plan the app architecture, create data models, design and implement the main UI theme core, develop the core logic, compile the project to check for initial setup, and slowly you can start seeing that it started creating the actual code. Since this is a Flutter application, the language that it will be building it is Dart. So you can see main.dart, theme.dart, pubspec.yaml, all the core files of a Flutter application are being built automatically. You can also see that it creates a architecture.md file, which is a task list that it is creating to make sure it doesn't lose track of building the application itself. And it has also created the navigation that we had already asked it to create, as well as the data models and so on. Now it starts implementing the app. So it says that it will update the theme with meditation appropriate colors, which is great. And it will also add some images and dependencies. It's also adding the PubSpec YAML theme, and it is starting to build the actual app structure. So at any point you can always click on view generated files to actually see the files which have already been generated, or the view architecture plan to see the overview of what it is planning to create. So now that it has created the basic files, it is creating the data models, which includes the user.dart and meditation.dart. So these will actually become the database tables which we will create in Supabase or Firebase going forward. So you can also see that it has created category.dart, which is for the types of meditation which are existing in the application. So now you can see that out of the list of the 6 items that it had created for itself, it has already created the first one. The second and third is being done parallelly. The remaining 3 are still left to be completed. So now you can see that it is creating service classes, which is category service, meditation service, which will be the actual functions or the APIs that will be triggered. So now the services are being created, like the category service or meditation service.dart, and these files are actually creating the APIs which will be triggered by the UI to execute the functions. We can also see the user service and practice session service, which will also be used as part of our functionality. Now finally we can see the main screen.dart. This will be the main navigation screen, and then there are individual screens like home screen and so on, which will be created on top of it. You can also get a glimpse of the widgets that are being created inside each screen. So out of the 6 list of items that the AI had created for itself, 5 are already completed. So we are nearing the end of the development, and the final step is completing the project to check for initial setup errors and UI rendering issues. The final screen that is created is the practice screen, which is for the user to actually do the meditation and test it. The compiling code is happening now, and there seems to be an analyzer issue, and it is trying to fix it by itself. Perfect, the application is created, and now you can see that the application is getting started. So we are jumping into seeing the application in the workspace itself. Great, now you can see that the project data is loaded, the workspace is being set up, analyzing project and starting preview. Perfect, now we have landed on the Dreamflow workspace. You can see that there is one error, but the error itself we can fix with AI. So let me click on the fix with AI that's come in as an option. It would automatically check the list of compiled errors and try to fix it by itself. But while that is happening, we'll just have a quick look around on the workspace. So you can see that there is a widget tree which would get rendered once the error is fixed. but you also have a theme. So the Dreamflow tool has already decided the brand colors that is needed to generate this meditation application. You can also see that there are assets, which are all the files like images, videos, audios, anything that can be used in our application. We also have Supabase and Firebase, both databases that you can connect to this real production ready application on Flutter. Now you can see that the agent mode that is running on the right side is where the AI is embedded within the workspace, very similar to how many other vibe coding applications run. Since I just clicked on fix with AI, it is already checking on the error that is coming in and trying to fix it by itself. The agent has fixed all the errors and we can see the running application on the preview mode. So you can see that there are 4 tabs at the bottom bar. You have home, search, library, practice, exactly like what we had asked for in the prompt. In home, you can see explore options. You can also quickly start with a daily moment meditation practice. You can see a list of featured sessions that are already created with the image, the title, or the author or the presenter of the session. You can also see a search option where I can go and search for a particular type of this. So it's already working. The list is already searchable. You can also see a library where I can track all the sessions that I have already worked on. Probably the word library doesn't map correctly, but something that we can always change. And very importantly, there is a practice session. So I did not really explain what the practice session was about, but it already created a timer of 5 minutes and a quick play button as well. So I can select 3 minutes or 5 minutes and quickly start a meditation. So now it says breathe deeply and stay present. So from a building an application perspective, this is really good. But from this, now we have to start building and integrate with a backend, and let's start with those features. Now that the application has been rendered by the agent, you can see that the widget tree is also visible, where each widget is actually clickable, and you can also right click and add the widget itself to the agent for further discussion. You can also right click on every widget and go to code, where you can actually edit the native code yourself. Now that we have the first draft of the application built by the vibe coding AI agent already, let's try to integrate the application to Supabase. When I click on connect to Supabase, you can see that it is waiting for OAuth sign-in, and here it asks me for authorizing the API access for Dreamflow, and I will give my access to all the details, and I already have a organization that is created in my Supabase setup. So when I say authorize Dreamflow, it will give access to Dreamflow to be able to insert database tables or insert data values, retrieve values, and so on. So here you can see that the account is already connected. Before you link to Supabase, make sure that you go to supabase.com and log in and create an account. That will create an organization for you, so that when you click on the dashboard, you can see your list of organizations. That would be, for my case, it is Srinath Warrior Tech Org. Inside this, I can have multiple projects. So then I can go back to my Dreamflow and simply create new Supabase project, which we have already given access to. So here, Supabase is already creating a connection, doing the project setup. It will also create the code generated in your Flutter application to be able to talk to the Supabase project. Now you can see that it has already created a project name Clarity Flow, which is the name of our application. So now if I go to my Supabase org, you can see there is already a project called Clarity Flow which is created, which will be managed by my Dreamflow account fully. Supabase is already adding the project ID, API URL, anon key, DB password. If you have tried to build applications with vibe coding in other systems, you know how much of a pain it is to keep copying all these API keys and manage it in the local env file or env.local and so on. But here Dreamflow has already taken all these Supabase variables and saved them in the Dreamflow setup. Now that Dreamflow has already created a project in Supabase and fetched all the API keys and passwords and everything and already kept it in Dreamflow, you can see that there are 3 more steps that you can do to complete the entire integration with Supabase. You can create code. So this is generating client code. What this will do is create the code within your Flutter application in Dart files to be able to communicate easily with Supabase. You can also create the migration files if needed. So this will allow that if I add new columns or if I have further features that are added, Dreamflow will automatically calculate the changes that are needed to be persisted in the Supabase account. So now I'll click on generate client code, which will create the files needed for Dreamflow to connect via Flutter to Supabase. So you can see that in the agent, it has already selected this text called please generate Supabase client code for my project. So here you can see that Dreamflow is already trying to create the configuration to connect to Supabase. It has started editing the files called supabase config.dart, meditation.dart, user.dart, which are the ones which will use this supabase config.dart. This is actually really cool because a lot of time in vibe coding actually goes in trying to connect our application to the database, because a lot of vibe coding is UI focused and not backend focused. So if the vibe coding tool is able to build these configuration files like the Supabase config dart file, it actually saves a lot of time and effort and lets us focus on the business development, the actual application development. We can also see that the AI is creating Supabase tables.sql, where you can see a list of the tables which will actually be created in the Supabase table. You can also see Supabase policies.sql, which defines who can access what table. Now that the configuration files are done, the AI is actually creating the connections in the service files like user service dart, category service dart, and so on. We can actually take an example and show one of the changes that it is doing. So you can see that it has already added the Supabase config dart. It has imported this file to be able to connect to the Supabase configuration better. Okay. So one important thing is, so far there is nothing created in the Supabase system itself. So the only thing that is there is, of course, I had my organization, which was Srinath Warrior Tech's org, and I have a project called Clarity Flow, which Dreamflow created. But apart from that, there are no tables that are created in Supabase yet. In order to create that, we have to actually do the next step. Great. Now you can see that the agent has actually created most of the configurations needed to connect to Supabase, including the Supabase auth manager.dart. And finally, it is going to start creating the login and sign up screens, so that every time a new user comes in, they will get the sign up screen. This is actually very interesting because Dreamflow is not just connecting to Supabase, it is doing the end-to-end development. So it is also adding a UI for login sign up screen, and it is also managing the authorization to connect to Supabase. It is also adding the tables in Supabase. So it has added a file to be able to create the database tables. So it is fully end-to-end full stack development which Dreamflow is doing. Okay, so now the agent has completed the generation of the client code, and these are the 4 key changes that it has done. It has created the database schema, which is the Supabase tables.sql and the policies. It has updated the Flutter code service layer, all the API layers, to be able to connect to Supabase correctly. It's added an authentication layer both on the Supabase auth manager file as well as the UI screen to log in or sign up. And finally, it's added the configuration to be able to connect the automatic routing from the login screen for unauthenticated users. Now the very important thing is the next step, to use the Supabase panel in the left sidebar to deploy the SQL migrations to your database. Because so far, Dreamflow has not created any tables or data in Supabase. That will be the next step. Now, in order to make Dreamflow create these database tables in Supabase, I can go to schema deployment, select the migration file which the agent has already created for me, select Supabase tables.sql and click on deploy schema changes. So this will now first push all the tables into the database tables of Supabase. Great. Now you can see that the schema deployment is completed successfully. You can also click on the Supabase policies.sql to ensure that only the right users have access to the right tables. So again, I'll click on Supabase policies and I'll click on deploy schema changes. Let's have a quick look at what database tables are created in Supabase so that you're always in control of what the AI is doing for you. So you can see that there are 5 tables created in Supabase. One is categories, one is meditations, one is practice sessions, user favorites, and the actual list of users. So as we start testing the application with new users, you can see that this list of users will get added into this table. Whenever I go into my favorites tab and click on a favorite session, that should come up here. When I'm doing my practice sessions, to track whether a particular user is doing a practice session, the log of that practice session will come up here. The list of all the meditations itself will come up in the meditations table. And finally, the categories of meditations will come up in the first table. But as is obvious, all these tables are empty. So if I really want to test the application, I need to generate some sample data. You can always use Dreamflow for that as well. So if I go to my sample data, which is the last item in my list of Supabase setup, you can either generate sample data without a login needed, or you can generate a sample data for a particular user. So now you can see that all the sample data has been created in the 5 tables in Supabase. So there is categories, meditations, practice sessions, and my email ID of shinathwarriortech@gmail.com is also added as one of the rows in the users. To get this working correct, you would get an email from Supabase to confirm your sign up. In order to get this email, you need to log in your application, and then when you try to generate the sample data, it should work fine. Perfect. Now that Dreamflow has built our entire application in Flutter for both Android and iOS, and it has connected it to Supabase with a real database as well, the next thing would be to test and publish the application. So if I go to the publish button here, I have the option of a one-click web deployment. But just remember that this is not a native version of it. This is a web deployment, but you can run this using a QR code on your phone as well. Very similar to how Expo adds it to the React Native setup. So when I click on this, I get web deployment running. So it's building the project, and it'll give me a QR code where I can either run it on my browser on the laptop or on my phone. Currently, the custom deployment is not available, but this feature will be coming soon. Now you can see that there is a live link that Dreamflow has created, which I can directly open on my browser to test the application. So on clicking on this URL, I can actually test the application on my laptop on the browser. Maybe on my network tab, I have just made it onto an iPhone setup. But here I can see that there is a welcome back screen, which is to sign in to continue your mindfulness journey. I can click on sign up and enter my details. After entering all my details, I can click on create account and see my list of meditations and my details. So when I log in using my email ID to the application, I can see a list of featured sessions for me. I can also go to the library and see the list of sessions that I can click on favorite and set it for myself. I can also search for my sessions if needed, or I can click on practice and start my practice sessions. So the 6 favorite sessions that you see here are the values that are showed in the user favorites tab in the database table as well. Another important feature to note is the live preview option that you have on Dreamflow. Click on view a live preview on your own device button on the bottom right, and this will open up a QR code which I can just scan using my phone and directly access the application on my phone. But remember that this is not the native application. This is just running on your phone's browser, but it is still good to get a quick testing of a Flutter application on your phone directly. And this can be done on both Android and iOS. And this is how the application would look when running locally. You can also see the practice tab where I can directly click on the play button and start my meditation, which is what the application has already been built with. Now let's quickly look at some of the reasons why Dreamflow is better than most other AI vibe coding tools. First reason is the detailed prompt. Because Dreamflow lets you build UI, middleware and the backend all with a single prompt, the more detailed your prompt is, the better the application will be built. So when you're starting off, you can use this format to build a prompt. Make sure that you mention an example application like Spotify, or in my case Headspace, which helps the AI to know what kind of an application you are building. And also try to mention your theme and what kind of UI components you want. And when you're doing follow-up prompts for scenarios or features beyond the first draft of the application, try to follow this clarify then code approach. So mention your action item task and then write this line: before writing code, analyze my request. If there's any ambiguity about the best way to accomplish the task, ask clarifying questions. Do not proceed until I answer. This is extremely helpful because the number of credits or the money that you spend on the prompt can actually be saved by using this approach. The second reason why Dreamflow is a really good editor is the agent mode. While most vibe coding tools does have a screenshot mode where you can just take a screenshot and provide it to the AI to develop better applications or better UIs, what makes Dreamflow really interesting is the option to add a particular widget to the agent mode. For example, if I want to make a change to this weekly chart widget, instead of passing a screenshot to the AI agent, I can simply access the widget in the widget tree and right click on it and then ask add to agent. This will copy the entire widget code and the details about the widget to the AI agent chatbot. Now the AI agent knows that the context of what the question is going to be is about this widget. It helps to give much better responses and improve your vibe coding process. This is possible in Dreamflow because it is a native Flutter application, and Dreamflow is also built by Flutter Flow, so they already know how the Flutter widgets are composed. The third reason why Dreamflow is really good is because of its inbuilt integration to Supabase and Firebase. Let's take Supabase as an example. you can directly generate the client code and migration code for Supabase using Dreamflow. This means that when you use any other vibe coding application, you have to do a lot of manual work to integrate with Supabase or any database and let your UI or your application code know how to configure this connection to the database. Dreamflow takes care of that automatically. After you have built your tables in Supabase, you can also quickly generate sample data to fill all your database tables. And finally, you can easily set up auth, which is a major hassle for most vibe coders. The last reason why I recommend Dreamflow for AI vibe coding is the test and publish feature. So you can easily test the application using the single link that is generated, or you can click on the QR code and directly scan it into your application and start testing it. You can also test the application on your Android phone by downloading the debug APK file. And finally, you can easily publish your application to the App Store or the Google Play Store as long as you have the Apple Dev account or the Google Play Dev console, which charges $99 a year or $25 lifetime. But you can follow the documentation mentioned in the Dreamflow docs to understand all the things that you have to do to set up the publishing. And at the end, when you want to publish it, you can just click on the publish button and select iOS or Android and simply fill all the details and click on submit build to Google Play.